We crave and fear becoming truly ourselves. Be independent of the good opinion of other people. Every person is, in part, his own project and makes himself. If you only have a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. One's only failure is failing to live up to one's own possibilities. One of the goals of education should be to teach that life is precious. You will either step forward into growth, or you will step back into safety. What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. The ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. All of life is education, and everybody is a teacher, and everybody is forever a pupil. The only happy people I know are the ones who are working well at something they consider important. If you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably be unhappy all the days of your life. One can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. Growth must be chosen again and again. Fear must be overcome again and again. The good or healthy society would then be defined as one that permitted people's highest purposes to emerge by satisfying all their basic needs. The spiritual life is part of the human essence. It is a defining characteristic of human nature, without which human nature is not fully human. Life is an ongoing process of choosing between safety, out of fear and need for defense, and risk, for the sake of progress and growth. Make the growth choice a dozen times a day. Education is learning to grow, learning what to grow toward, learning what is good and bad, learning what is desirable and undesirable, learning what to choose and what not to choose. When people appear to be something other than good and decent, it is only because they are reacting to stress, pain, or the deprivation of basic human needs such as security, love, and self-esteem. A positive self-image and healthy self-esteem is based on approval, acceptance, and recognition from others, but also upon actual accomplishments, achievements, and success, upon the realistic self-confidence which ensues. Self-actualizing people are those who have come to a high level of maturation, health, and self-fulfillment. The values that self-actualizers appreciate include truth, creativity, beauty, goodness, wholeness, aliveness, uniqueness, justice, simplicity, and self-sufficiency. You must want to be first class, meaning the best, the very best you are capable of becoming. If you deliberately plan to be less than you are capable of being, then I warn you that you'll be deeply unhappy for the rest of your life. You will be evading your own capacities, your own possibilities. A musician must make music, an artist must paint, and poet must write, if he is to be ultimately at peace with himself. What a man can be, he must be. This weed we call self-actualization. It refers to man's desire for self-fulfillment, namely to the tendency for him to become actually in what he is potentially, to become everything one is capable of becoming. Let people realize clearly that every time they threaten someone or humiliate or unnecessarily hurt or dominate or reject another human being, they become forces for the creation of psychopathology, even if these be small forces. Let them recognize that every person who is kind, helpful, decent, psychologically democratic, affectionate, and warm is a psychotherapeutic force, even though a small one. A person who makes full use of and exploits his talents, potentialities, and capacities. Such a person seems to be fulfilling himself and doing the best he is capable of doing. The self-actualized person must find in his life those qualities that make his living rich and rewarding. He must find meaningfulness, self-sufficiency, effortlessness, playfulness, richness, simplicity, completion, necessity, perfection, individuality, beauty, and truth. We crave and fear becoming truly ourselves. Be independent of the good opinion of other people. Every person is, in part, his own project and makes himself. If you only have a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. One's only failure is failing to live up to one's own possibilities. One of the goals of education should be to teach that life is precious. You will either step forward into growth, or you will step back into safety. What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. The ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. All of life is education, and everybody is a teacher, and everybody is forever a pupil. The only happy people I know are the ones who are working well. Learn, compare, collect the facts. Learn the ABC of science before you try to ascend to its summit. Perfect as the wing of a bird may be, it will never enable the bird to fly. While you are experimenting, do not remain content with the surface of things. Don't become a mere recorder of facts, but try to penetrate the mystery of their origin. Appetite, craving for food, is a constant and powerful stimulator of the gastric glands. But man has still another powerful resource, natural science with its strictly objective methods. Men are apt to be much more influenced by words than by the actual facts of the surrounding reality. It is still open to question whether psychology is a natural science, or whether it can be regarded as a science at all. As we have seen, bread, and especially dry bread, evokes secretion of considerably larger quantities of saliva than meat. School yourself to demureness and patience. Learn to inure yourself to drudgery in science. Learn, compare, collect the facts. Never think that you already know all. However highly you are appraised, always have the courage to say to yourself, I am ignorant. Do not become archivists of facts. Try to penetrate to the secret of their occurrence. Persistently search for the laws which govern them. Science demands from a man all his life. If you had 2 lives, that would not be enough for you. Be passionate in your work and in your searching. Gradualness, gradualness, and gradualness. From the very beginning of your work, school yourself to severe gradualness in the accumulation of knowledge. From the described experiment, it is clear that the mere act of eating, the food even not reaching the stomach, determines the stimulation of the gastric glands. Perfect as the wing of a bird may be, it will never enable the bird to fly if unsupported by the air. Facts are the air of science. Without them, a man of science can never rise. It is not accidental that all phenomena of human life are dominated by the search for daily bread, the oldest link connecting all living things, man included, with the surrounding nature. When the dog is repeatedly teased with the sight of objects inducing salivary secretion from a distance, the reaction of the salivary glands grows weaker and weaker, and finally drops to 0. Possibilities are like the wings of birds. They allow man to soar and to climb to the heavens. And facts are like the atmosphere against which those wings must beat, and without which the soaring bird will surely plummet back to earth. It is clear to all that the animal organism is a highly complex system, consisting of an almost infinite series of parts connected both with one another, and, as a total complex, with the surrounding world, with which it is in a state of equilibrium. It goes without saying that the desire to accomplish the task with more confidence, to avoid wasting time and labor, and to spare our experimental animals as much as possible, made us strictly observe all the precautions taken by surgeons in respect to their patients. I am convinced that an important stage of human thought will have been reached when the physiological and the psychological, the objective and the subjective, are actually united, when the tormenting conflicts or contradictions between my consciousness and my body will have been factually resolved or discarded. Mankind will possess incalculable advantages and extraordinary control over human behavior when the scientific investigator will be able to subject his fellow men to the same external analysis he would employ for any natural object, and when the human mind will contemplate itself not from within, but from without. If we could look through the skull into the brain of a consciously thinking person, and if the place of optimal excitability were luminous, then we should see playing over the cerebral surface a bright spot with fantastic, waving borders constantly fluctuating in size and form, surrounded by a darkness more or less deep, covering the rest of the hemisphere. We crave and fear becoming truly ourselves. Be independent of the good opinion of other people. Every person is, in part, his own project and makes himself. If you only have a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. One's only failure is failing to live up to one's own possibilities. One of the goals of education should be to teach that life is precious. You will either step forward into growth, or you will step back into safety. What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. The ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. All of life is education, and everybody is a teacher, and everybody is forever a pupil. The only happy people I know are the ones who are working well at something they consider important. If you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably be unhappy all the days of your life. One can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. The madman is a dreamer awake. A woman should soften but not weaken a man. Where does a thought go when it's forgotten? Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Everywhere I go I find a poet has been there before me. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. He does not believe that does not live according to his belief. Immorality, no less than morality, has at all times found support in religion. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. The virtuous man contents himself with dreaming that which the wicked man does in actual life. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Whoever loves becomes humble. Those who love have, so to speak, pawned a part of their narcissism. Religion is an illusion, and it derives its strength from the fact that it falls in with our instinctual desires. In the depths of my heart, I can't help being convinced that my dear fellow men, with a few exceptions, are worthless. The behavior of a human being in sexual matters is often a prototype for the whole of his other modes of reaction in life. No, our science is no illusion, but an illusion it would be to suppose that what science cannot give us we can get elsewhere. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Where the questions of religion are concerned, people are guilty of every possible kind of insincerity and intellectual misdemeanor. Religious doctrines are all illusions. They do not admit of proof, and no one can be compelled to consider them as true or to believe in them. It is that we are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love, never so helplessly unhappy as when we have lost our loved object or its love. He that has eyes to see and ears to hear may convince himself that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. Religion is a system of wishful illusions together with a disavowal of reality, such as we find nowhere else but in a state of blissful hallucinatory confusion. Religion's 11th commandment is, "Thou shalt not question." It is impossible to escape the impression that people commonly use false standards of measurement, that they seek power, success, and wealth for themselves, and admire them in others, and that they underestimate what is of true value in life. In so doing, the idea forces itself upon him that religion is comparable to a childhood neurosis, and he is optimistic enough to suppose that mankind will surmount this neurotic phase, just as so many children grow out of their similar neurosis. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. They can transfer knowledge from teacher to student. Words enable the orator to sway his audience and dictate its decisions. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions. Life, as we find it, is too hard for us. It brings us too many pains, disappointments, and impossible tasks. In order to bear it, we cannot dispense with palliative measures. There are perhaps three such measures: powerful deflections which cause us to make light of our misery, substitutive satisfactions which diminish it, and intoxicating substances which make us insensible to it. Human beings are funny. They long to be with the person they love but refuse to admit openly. Some are afraid to show even the slightest sign of affection because of fear. Fear that their feelings may not be recognized, or even worse, returned. But one thing about human beings puzzles me the most is their conscious effort to be connected with the object of their affection, even if it kills them slowly within. Religion is an attempt to get control over the sensory world, in which we are placed, by means of the wish world, which we have developed inside us as a result of biological and psychological necessities. But it cannot achieve its end. Its doctrines carry with them the stamp of the times in which they originated, the ignorant childhood days of the human race. Its consolations deserve no trust. Experience teaches us that the world is not a nursery. The ethical commands, to which religion seeks to lend its weight, require some other foundations instead, for human society cannot do without them, and it is dangerous to link up obedience to them with religious belief. If one attempts to assign to religion its place in man's evolution, it seems not so much to be a lasting acquisition, as a parallel to the neurosis which the civilized individual must pass through on his way from childhood to maturity. We crave and fear becoming truly ourselves. Be independent of the good opinion of other people. Every person is, in part, his own project and makes himself. If you only have a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. One's only failure is failing to live up to one's own possibilities. One of the goals of education should be to teach that life is precious. You will either step forward into growth, or you will step back into safety. What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. The ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. All of life is education, and everybody is a teacher, and everybody is forever a pupil. The only happy people I know are the ones who are working well at something they consider important. If you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably be unhappy all the days of your life. To kill time is not murder, it's suicide. The mind is made up by what it feeds upon. Circumstance does not make me, it reveals me. Act as if what you do makes a difference, it does. If you can change your mind, you can change your life. The good we do today becomes the happiness of tomorrow. The art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook. Our view of the world is truly shaped by what we decide to hear. The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Formula to live your dream: 1. Be bold. 2. Begin now. 3. No exceptions. Habit simplifies our movements, makes them accurate, and diminishes fatigue. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over. A great many people think they are thinking when they are merely rearranging. The greatest revolution of our generation is the discovery that human beings buy. The greatest weapon we have to combat stress is the ability to choose our thoughts. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. There is nothing so absurd that it cannot be believed as truth if repeated often enough. William James quote, "The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated." A great many people think they are thinking when they are merely rearranging their prejudices. We forget that every good that is worth possessing must be paid for in strokes of daily effort. Thoughts become perception, perception becomes reality. Alter your thoughts, alter your reality. Most unhappiness is caused because people listen to themselves, instead of talking to themselves. Acceptance of what has happened is the first step to overcoming the consequences of any misfortune. A winner's attitude, it may be difficult but it's possible. A loser's attitude, it may be possible but it's too difficult. Your hopes, dreams, and aspirations are legitimate. They are trying to take you airborne, above the clouds, above the storms, if you only let them. Whenever two people meet, there are really 6 people present. There is each man as he sees himself, each man as the other person sees him, and each man as he really is. The greatest revolution of our generation is the discovery that human beings, by changing the inner attitudes of their minds, can change the outer aspects of their lives. There is a law in psychology that if you form a picture in your mind of what you would like to be, and you keep and hold that picture there long enough, you will soon become exactly as you have been thinking. The world we see that seems so insane is the result of a belief system that is not working. To perceive the world differently, we must be willing to change our belief system, let the past slip away, expand our sense of now, and dissolve the fear in our minds. We crave and fear becoming truly ourselves. Be independent of the good opinion of other people. Every person is, in part, his own project and makes himself. If you only have a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. One's only failure is failing to live up to one's own possibilities. One of the goals of education should be to teach that life is precious. You will either step forward into growth, or you will step back into safety. What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. The ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. All of life is education, and everybody is a teacher, and everybody is forever a pupil. The only happy people I know are the ones who are working well at something they consider. Crime brings together honest men and concentrates them. Things perceived as real become real in their consequences. Solidarity is, literally, something which the society possesses. Socialism is not a science, a sociology in miniature. It is a cry of pain. Methodological rules are for science, what rules of law and custom are for conduct. We do not condemn it because it is a crime, but it is a crime because we condemn it. Religion is, in a word, the system of symbols by means of which society becomes conscious of itself. When mores are sufficient, laws are unnecessary. When mores are insufficient, laws are unenforceable. One does not advance when one walks toward no goal, or, which is the same thing, when his goal is infinity. Reality seems valueless by comparison with the dreams of fevered imaginations. Reality is therefore abandoned. Irrespective of any external regulatory force, our capacity for feeling is in itself an insatiable and bottomless abyss. It is society which, fashioning us in its image, fills us with religious, political, and moral beliefs that control our actions. Hence, we are the victims of an illusion which leads us to believe we have ourselves produced what has been imposed upon us externally. I have been the victim of this impulse for a year. At first it was insignificant. Then for about the last 2 months it has pursued me everywhere. The most barbarous and the most fantastic rites and the strangest myths translate some human need, some aspect of life, either individual or social. It is said that we do not make the guilty party suffer for the sake of suffering. It is nonetheless true that we find it right that he should suffer. We should not say that an act offends the common consciousness because it is criminal, but that it is criminal because it offends the common consciousness. Just as reflection disappears to the extent that thought and action take the form of automatic habits, it awakes only when accepted habits become disorganized. It seems very strange that one must turn back and be transported to the very beginnings of history in order to arrive at an understanding of humanity as it is at present. When there is no other aim but to outstrip constantly the point arrived at, how painful to be thrown back. Since imagination is hungry for novelty, and ungoverned it gropes at random. The totality of beliefs and sentiments common to the average members of a society forms a determinate system with a life of its own. It can be termed the collective or creative consciousness. Maniacal suicide. This is due to hallucinations or delirious conceptions. The patient kills himself to escape from an imaginary danger or disgrace, or to obey a mysterious order from on high, etc. Man cannot become attached to higher aims and submit to a rule if he sees nothing above him to which he belongs. To free him from all social pressure is to abandon him to himself and demoralize him. Liberty is the daughter of authority properly understood. For to be free is not to do what one pleases. It is to be the master of oneself. It is to know how to act within reason and to do one's duty. Melancholy suicide. This is connected with a general state of extreme depression and exaggerated sadness, causing the patient no longer to realize sanely the bonds which connect him with people and things about him. Pleasures no longer attract. When this ultimate crisis comes, when there is no way out, that is the very moment when we explode from within and the totally other emerges. The sudden surfacing of a strength, a security of unknown origin, welling up from beyond reason, rational expectation and hope. While the state becomes inflated and hypertrophied in order to obtain a firm enough grip upon individuals, but without succeeding, the latter, without mutual relationships, tumble over one another like so many liquid molecules, encountering no central energy to retain, fix, and organize them. One cannot long remain so absorbed in contemplation of emptiness without being increasingly attracted to it. In vain one bestows on it the name of infinity. This does not change its nature. When one feels such pleasure in non-existence, one's inclination can be completely satisfied only by completely ceasing to exist. Anyone who has truly practiced a religion knows very well that it is the set of regularly repeated actions that make up the cult, that stimulates the feelings of joy, inner peace, serenity, and enthusiasm that, for the faithful, stand as experimental proof of their beliefs. The cult is not merely a system of signs by which the faith is outwardly expressed. It is the sum total of means by which that faith is created and recreated periodically. Whether the cult consists of physical operations or mental ones, it is always the cult that is efficacious. We crave and fear becoming truly ourselves. Be independent of the good opinion of other people. Every person is, in part, his own product. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. We don't get wounded alone, and we don't heal alone. Embrace your grief, for there your soul will grow. Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. To be normal is the ultimate aim of the unsuccessful. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. We are not what happened to us, we are what we wish to become. Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. Life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The difference between a good life and a bad life is how well you walk through the fire. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Do not compare, do not measure. No other way is like yours. All other ways deceive and tempt you. You must fulfill the way that is in you. We don't so much solve our problems as we outgrow them. We add capacities and experiences that eventually make us bigger than the problems. Be grateful for your difficulties and challenges, for they hold blessings. In fact, man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health, personal growth, individuation, and self-actualization. A man likes to believe that he is the master of his soul. But as long as he is unable to control his moods and emotions, or to be conscious of the myriad secret ways in which unconscious factors insinuate themselves into his arrangements and decisions, he is certainly not his own master. I cannot prove to you that God exists, but my work has proved empirically that the pattern of God exists in every man, and that this pattern in the individual has at its disposal the greatest transforming energies of which life is capable. Find this pattern in your own individual self and life is transformed. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes.